Previously released on June 2nd at approximately 12:30 p.m. Emergency personnel responded to the area of Kingsway and Stafford Street regarding an altercation and stabbing incident. The investigation has revealed that a minor altercation occurred between a 16-year-old male student and a 17-year-old male former student on the grounds of Kelvin High School. The 16-year-old male involved disengaged, at which time a third male intervened. During that time, the third male allegedly stabbed 17-year-old BOURNE, causing critical injuries. He was later pronounced deceased in hospital. As a result of the incident, area schools were placed into lockdown. Patrol and members of our tactical support team secured the area. Numerous individuals were identified and interviewed throughout the evening by members of the Homicide Unit. As a result of those interviews, a 17-year-old male was identified as a suspect and subsequently arrested in relation to the homicide. The investigation continues. Family notifications have been made and results of an autopsy are pending. Anyone with further information who has not yet spoken to homicide investigators is asked to call 204-986-6508 or Crime Stoppers at 204-786-TIPS. The Winnipeg Police Service would like to thank staff at Kelvin High School for their assistance and support during this very difficult time.
What's the charge? Is there a charge right now?
There will be, and we're expecting that, but I can't, and I'm not going to speculate what that charge will be. I can tell you that we are, obviously working with the Crown. The suspect is in custody at this time and is being interviewed and being processed. So I can't provide you with that specific charge, but it will be, and likely will be, a homicide-related charge. But and I'm hopeful that I'll have that for you later in the day, at the very least tomorrow morning.
Jason,
Yeah.
just checking, is it supposed to be a 16-year-old male is identified as the suspect?
My understanding, I have the age of 17, but I can verify that for you. That was the age that was given to me, but we do have a male youth in custody. He has not been formally charged and won't be identified at this time.
So Jason, this is like a, what do you mean by a minor altercation initially and then a third person shows up and
Yeah.
just get crazy?
I can tell you that the two males initially involved, it was and best described as a minor altercation, whether there was some pushing, shoving, whether there was a verbal dispute associated to that. But at that point, I'm not aware of any serious injuries occurring. It does appear that the 16-year-old attempted to disengage and I believe entered the school trying to disengage from that particular individual. It was at that time or shortly thereafter the third male was in the area and certainly appears to have been armed, and it was at that time the victim was stabbed, and unfortunately fatally so. So as a result of us attending the scene, assessing that scene, working with staff who are of great help to us with respect to identifying individuals and moving our investigation forward, we identified a number of people that we believe were important with respect to moving the investigation forward. These were likely witnesses, and we've said it before, witnesses can certainly turn into suspects. So the individual that we have in custody right now was gathered at that time. It was someone that we had determined someone important that we need to speak to, not necessarily knowing that he was directly involved. And as a result of the ongoing investigation, as a result of ongoing interviews, he's been identified as a suspect, and I can tell you right now, charges have not been formally laid, but are expected.
What's the relationship between these three and what were they arguing about?
My understanding, these individuals know each other, whether they're acquaintances or friends. I can't go anywhere beyond that, but they certainly appear to know each other to some degree. And the only specific that I'm going to provide right now, that it does appear that there have been some ongoing relationship issues, and that appears to be one of the main reasons why things escalated to the extent that they did. But I'm not going to get into the specifics as to what those relationship issues were.
Do you mean involving a girl or between the two parties here? Or?
That's certainly a possibility. I'm not dismissing that, but I'm going to just have to generalize that. And we're still sorting through that. We are still conducting interviews. We still have the suspect in custody, and we're trying to draw as much information as we can from that individual and others that have come forward who have been very helpful with respect to our investigation. But I'm not going to get into anything further with respect to why this unfolded to the extreme that it did, but it certainly appears that relationships and ongoing issues involving these individuals appears to be a factor with respect to the stabbing incident.
Is the suspect at least have help from people at the scene, teachers holding people in place, suspects, witnesses?
I can tell you that staff certainly, and we put that line at the bottom there, and because it was acknowledged to me that staff truly did a great job. The safety of staff and students during an incident like this is clearly the highest of priorities. We were able to attend the scene quickly, try and determine what we're dealing with. The injured individual was located. Obviously, members of the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service quickly attended to that individual, and it was at this time that we have to determine what we're dealing with, and there was no indication that the suspect had re-entered the school. There was no indication that we were dealing with any other immediate threat that we were aware of, but it did appear that there were obviously a number of people that we needed to speak to. There was a lot of information coming our way with respect to what took place and who may or may not be involved, and staff was played a vital part in us processing that initial information so that we can move an investigation forward as quickly as possible.
How did police actually get their hands on the suspect?
Again, what I've told you is we had gotten a number of people identified with respect to who had observed the incident, who may have vital information with respect to what took place. We gathered those individuals, potential witnesses, and ultimately that one of those witnesses, being the suspect, was identified and ultimately arrested.
Was the victim also armed?
I'm not aware of any other weapons involved. I can't speak on the weapon itself or the recovery of that weapon, but we're clearly talking about a stabbing here. I'll likely have further information as we finish processing the scene and speak with investigators.
You're the suspect who's in custody. Where exactly was he arrested?
I'm going to tell you, he was in the area when police arrived.
Not on school grounds.
Whether or not he was on school grounds or near the area of Kingsway and Stafford, he was identified and spoken to by investigators. As a result of those conversations, he was identified as a suspect later in the investigation, and is now facing charges.
And did you get the sense that he attempted to flee, or did he just give in?
I'm not aware of the suspect fleeing at any point. I'm not aware.
Jason, what's the concern of students bringing a knife into school?
Well, when we're talking about any type of weapon on any individual, we always question why they would be carrying that particular item, whether we're talking about a knife or anything or otherwise. When we have students having access or being potentially in possession of knives at schools or bringing them onto the property of schools, incredibly concerning, because that's certainly not a place for that type of an item. And why someone would feel the need to carry that type of an item is something that we all need to think about, and certainly talk to some young people about why they think that would be important. We're talking about an incident here obviously involving relationships and some ongoing issues, and clearly an individual, based on the information that we have right now, made it a very extreme decision, and we're sorting through what exactly transpired, and as far as charges go, we'll likely have further information with respect to what those charges will be later in the day.
When you say ongoing, do you mean weeks, months?
When I say ongoing and specific, or an investigation continues, I'm specific to processing the suspect who is now in custody.
Those ongoing relationship issues that you mentioned,
Okay.
have those been going on for weeks?
You know, I don't know for sure, but it does sound, and based on what I've been able to gather, that it sounds like there have been previous relationship issues involving these individuals. And again, to what extent and what specifically was stated, I can't get into that right now.
Were there any gang connections to the suspect? Do
Um,
you know?
I'm not that I'm aware of. In fact, the suspect in this matter, from what I can see, had minimal to, if any, WPS involvement in the crime. Just going to backpedal here, just so we're very, very clear with what we're reporting and with what we're saying. When we're talking about our victim, Brett BOURNE, he is a former student. Okay? When we're talking about the suspect, the 17-year-old suspect that we're currently processing, he is a student. The 16-year-old that I previously mentioned involved in the initial minor altercation, a student. Okay? My apologies for that confusion.
Are we expecting charges against anyone else or just this one 17-year-old?
Right now, I'm only aware of this one individual currently in custody with respect to this homicide investigation. I'm not aware of others. I'm only aware of this individual. Again, I'm not going to speculate what that charge may or may not be, but we're expecting to have that individual formally charged either later today, and hopefully we can make that public knowledge no later than tomorrow morning.
Did police have permission to name the victim in this case, or how does
Family notifications have been made, and those discussions would have taken place, and my understanding as well, not that it's justifiable, but when we talk about homicide investigations, we do typically identify victims, but again, that's after conversations with family members, and certainly on social media, and I know a lot of media have also been putting that name forward. And we oftentimes confirm or verify to ensure that everybody's on the same page. It's an incredibly tragic incident, and we want to get the information out as accurately as possible.
Jason, how do you keep such weapons out of school?
Jim, that's a loaded question. Certainly, schools, the school divisions, and many of our officers who are associated to schools throughout the city work really hard with staff and students to create a safe environment. The vast majority of people who are attending schools, staff included, want nothing more. But unfortunately, there are individuals in our community that are going to make some poor choices. And today, or yesterday and today, we're dealing with the worst case scenario. I don't have a blanket answer for you. But our work continues with respect to getting good messaging out to young people so that they have everything in their power, or everything within their ability to make good choices. But unfortunately, we deal with situations like this, and we have a job to do, and we're going to do it, but we're also going to try and get as much positive messaging out there so that these types of incidents don't occur. Not only out on our streets, let alone our schools. So it's ongoing work.
When was the last, I don't know if you probably don't have this right now, is this unprecedented? When was the last time there was a fatality at a Winnipeg school?
Yeah, I off the top of my head, I certainly can't provide you, with the last incident or serious incident involving a school. They do happen from time to time. It is rare, but it does happen. Schools are safe places to be. They're places where people go to get an education, to socialize, develop relationships in a positive way. Issues come up. They absolutely do. We understand that. But we know we have professionals in our schools who work tirelessly to mitigate issues and to potentially identify conflict within schools. And probably on many occasions we don't realize how many serious incidents, maybe not to this extreme, are prevented because of the good work that goes on in schools. But unfortunately today we're relaying some really, really bad news. And we have to continue to have the conversations. We need to continue to engage our young people so that they are making good choices. And Again, schools are safe. We worked really closely with staff at Kelvin. They've been fantastic. Their role yesterday was vital with respect to keeping everyone safe, providing police with the information that we needed, and ultimately moving this investigation forward.
On that note, this school does have a bit of a history of a couple of violent incidences. Is there going to be work to kind of, I guess, ensure safety even more than what's already in place there?
You know, regardless of whether incidents have occurred in the past, we certainly can't predict what's going to happen in the future. But I can tell you that we're going to work closely with the administrators of this school. We're going to work closely with the school division and provide whatever supports we can to ensure this doesn't happen again. There's no guarantees that I can provide, but I can tell you that we're going to work with the good people at Kelvin High School and provide whatever supports that we can so that these matters don't occur again. There's some deep conversations that have to take place, and we're certainly going to be a part of them.
And did the victim himself have any kind of previous interaction with police? Or?
My understanding, the victim did have some contact with police in the past, nothing too significant, but some police involvement in